Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, The Magical Solution. My name is Leilani. It is Tuesday night, and we are here once again, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to do our book club. Yay! So for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, welcome. Make sure you like and subscribe. But don't feel freaked out if you haven't been with us prior to. There are no prerequisites to joining in. We pick a book and we go through the book together. We read the book together. I pause throughout the book to kind of give my own commentary, my own interpretation. And if there is anything from previous chapters that you would need to know in order to comprehend what we're currently reading, I will let you know. So there's no need to freak out. There's no need to have to feel like you need to play catch up. However, all the other previous chapters and episodes and books that we have read in the past can be found on my YouTube channel at The Magical Solution. So feel free to stop by, along with interviews that I've done with amazing spiritualists, authors, influencers within the spiritual community. So definitely check those out as well. My interview podcast show will be returning in the new year. And I'm really excited to reveal to you guys the lineup for the upcoming show. I'm really excited for that. But anyways, let's get to it. Let me share screen. Before I do, let me let everyone know. First of all, thank you guys so much for joining us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, all the places, okay? Thank you guys so much for joining us. However, those of you who are on TikTok, as much as I love y'all and I want y'all's support, I really do, because I don't have a lot of people on TikTok. However, if you do want to follow along and actually read the text with me, that can be found on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. You'll see the text. For some weird reason, it does not show up on TikTok. I don't know why. So if you want to head on over to one of those other streams, by all means, let's go. All right, let me share screen so that I can get you guys in on this. Hold on a second. Share screen. Come on, share screen. There we go. Boom. Okay. Now that I've got you on share screen, now we're going to do it like this. Beautiful. We're going to do this. We're going to open it up nice and wide. Beautiful. Here we go. So we are on chapter 3 of book 2 in the larger book entitled The Harmonial Philosophy by American spiritualist Andrew Jackson Davis. This is a compendium of all of his works, and we are currently on the chapter entitled The Philosophy of Death. Woo! Let's do it. Quote, "There is," unquote, according to Paul, quote, "a natural body and there is a spiritual body," unquote, speaking in both cases of things that now are. But if there is a spiritual body, there is something inside that body. It is designed to hold something called the spirit. Man is a triple organization. His external body is a casing composed of the aggregate refinements of gross substances, material substances. There is an intermediate organization composed of finer substances, the ultimation of those coarser elements which make up the corporal body. This intermediate is the spiritual body, right? And lastly, within the spiritual body is the immortal image that the spirit, the super essential portion of man's nature, composed of impersonal principles flowing from the deific center of this glorious universe. So the physical body, the spirit, and the soul. Okay. Now, a body is a substance, and substance implies that associate properties of weight and force. Such a body must exist somewhere and occupy space. And if it occupies space, then all our proposed revelations concerning a summerland in the bosom of space lie within the field of probability. Finally, that which is in space must follow the laws of space, including time. Now, unfortunately, because this was written in the 1800s, there was a few things scientifically that that we know now that do not fit with what he's saying here. Um, Scientists have now realized that time does not exist out in space. It only exists within the relative experience of timekeeping creatures, correct? Um, and that weight and space itself do not abide by the same laws as weight and space here in the physical world. Why? Because we have gravity and the universe, the outer space, does not, right? It's a void. So there is essentially different laws of mechanics, different laws of measurements that Andrew Jackson Davis was not able to take into consideration because the science wasn't that advanced yet. So just keep that in mind. However, he does have a good point here. Our spiritual bodies are composed of of a lighter substance than our material bodies, but it's still a substance nonetheless, which means it should be able to be quantified in some type of way. Okay. And one of the ways in which we have quantified it in the past was we were able to measure dead bodies. We were able to measure bodies the moment before death and the moment after death. And we noticed that there is, I believe, 16 grams of weight that just disappear, that just fuck off when we die. And science says, that must be the spirit, right? Or at least spiritualists who are scientists say that that must be the spirit. Other people have their own theories, right? So there is we're starting to see some scientific pieces show up for this theory, right? Spiritual doctrine teaches that the inmost man is a spirit which flows through our nerve sensations, which contracts and expands muscles, which causes blood to circulate through the frame, which thinks and reasons, feels better, nobler, purer than forms, forces, and things about it, which teaches intellect and heart to recognize something higher than the fleeting circumstances whereunto it is harnessed. It is the invisible presence. It is the invisible presence of the divine in the visible human. It is the only and all sufficient incarnation. Degradations and depravities never reach that which lives within the spirit body. Discords and evils are arrested at the surface. They never get far enough inward to kill the proprietor. Okay, so I know that Andrew Jackson Davis does this really annoying thing where he interchanges the word spirit and soul. So he'll be talking about the soul, that innermost piece, but he uses the word spirit, which is that subtle body that envelopes the soul, and vice versa. He'll often interchange these words, so it could be really, really confusing for people who don't know these terms. But in this particular instance, what he's referring to is the soul. Okay, so the soul in this particular instance, he's saying that all of the evil, all of the fucked up shit that happens to us in the physical 3D realm will never make it past the corporal body, the spiritual corporal body, meaning it may get past the physical body, right? And it may damage the physical body on the way in, but it'll never get past the spirit body. The spirit body will take most of the brunt of the spiritual attacks and evil attacks because that's what it's there for. It's there to take the brunt of that. The soul, the seat of God that exists within us is so pure, so clean, that it is unable to be impaired or unable to be tainted by anything outside of it. Okay? Um, you cannot kill the soul. Everything has a soul. Everything. Everything has a soul. You cannot kill it, because if you kill the soul, you kill the person, or you kill the thing that the soul is within. The spirit, on the other hand, the character of the person, the spirit body of the person, is something that can potentially come and go at will, can potentially be damaged, can potentially be switched out, can potentially be etc., right? But when we're talking about the life force, the vital force, that cannot go, otherwise you would go, right? So yeah. Now, thoughts that are associated with the process of dying and with the state of death are dark, doubtful, disconsoling to some minds. And while death seems to others a welcome state, productive of peace, blessing, and elevation, in a degree it is terrifying to all, whether brave or timid, wise or foolish, old or young. Here now is the philosophy of the great subject. So soon as the human organization is perfected in form and development, so soon as the period has arrived when spirit exercises its full control over the body, a process of transformation begins. The change is imperceptible, yet progressive and incessant. The body is not in course of dying for a few hours only, but for many years, during which time the faculties and powers of the inner being gradually release their proprietorship over the form, and the soul aspires toward the superior spheres. When the form is yet in its childhood, there are manifested all the angular, eccentric, and irregular traits of character, inclination, and movement. When childhood advances to youth, eccentricity gives way to uniformity, and a circular mode is displayed in form characteristics. When youth attains manhood, the perfect circular and spiral make their appearance and are displayed in the characteristics and inclinations of that stage of development. It is at this point, it is at this period, that the process of dying or of transformation commences. The spirit is continually expanding its faculties and putting them forth as feelers into higher spheres. The tendencies of the spirit are no longer downward but upward, and this indeed, to an extent, beyond the power of language to express or of intellect to comprehend. As manhood progresses to old age, the body becomes gradually incapable of performing the office required by the spirit, and all faculties seem buried beneath effete materials. One after another, they withdraw from the material form. The body finally is almost disconnected from spirit. It becomes a dweller in the rudimental sphere, while the spirit is in the world of spirit, the inner life. So, here they talk a little bit about the dying process, and the dying process, according to Davis here, is something that is a lifelong process. It's not something that happens in the last few hours of life. And so essentially, the dying process is both a spiritual and a physical thing. So again, if we go back to the previous chapters, he talks about how the physical body is a vehicle for spirit, not because we are just the highest forms out here according to this tradition, but because the composition of the human body, of the physical body, is the perfect composition for whatever spirit it is holding. So the spirit and the physical body, in a sense, they match each other. They are a perfect match for each other, right? And so when someone is born and they move through life, what they need to understand is that their spirit body is expanding, not physically, not like expanding as in like space and time, but expanding in terms of its faculties, right? The more you learn, the more morally, upright you become, the more you develop your mediumistic abilities. All of these things are imprinting on the soul and making the spirit better and more expansive, right? And as it expands, so too does the body, but not in, again, not in a physical way, but in a way of age, right? And so as we move to a certain age, which is what they're talking about here, when we get to adulthood, or at least late adulthood, old age, this is when we start to see all of the work that the spirit has done throughout our entire childhood and youth and adulthood outwardly to the world. It is now going to start doing inwardly for itself. So when we hit old age, this is when we start to see older people start to become more quiet, more introspective, more contemplative. They tend to be much more in their thoughts, much more in their feelings, much more in their self-assessment. And a lot of us, a lot of us young cats, you hear us, make fun of, oh, they're getting ready to, they're trying to make up, they're trying to be good so they can get into heaven, and they're doing their praying and they're being all nice and stuff, but they're trying to get into heaven. But really, essentially, yes, that's really what is happening. They are going within. They are working through all of the memories, they're essentially doing the shadow work that many of us realize that we should be doing now, at a young age. We should be addressing ourselves as it comes, so that we are not plagued with the issue of having to address all of it all at once at old age, right? So essentially, that's what the whole process of dying looks like, in according to this thing, until eventually it gets to a point where the elderly person, in terms of their spiritual awareness, almost seems like an empty shell, because their spirit is really not spending a lot of time here in the physical 3D. It's spending more time in the spiritual. Those of us who have ever watched a grandparent or a great grandparent dying, there are many instances in which we will see our grandparents sort of kind of glaze over and just daydream, have like a look of daydream, and then like they return back to themselves, and they might say something like, oh, I saw my deceased mother, or I saw someone who had passed away years ago, right? This is because their spirit is spending more and more and more time in the spirit realm with the others that they know, until eventually they just won't return, right? So this is part of that process. Okay. So he's using the word Paul here, the name Paul, to represent the spirit. Don't ask me why. We'll probably figure that out in the cliff notes, not the cliff notes, the footnotes later. But here we go. So Paul says that there is a terrestrial and celestial, that we are sown in corruption, sown in dishonor, but raised in glory, a familiar word which means brightness. At last, the chemistry of actual death approaches and begins its work. All things that make up our corporal existence bid goodbye to each other. The pulses, the pulseless hand is extended no longer. The once beaming eyes do not open. The ear vibrates no longer to appeal or loving accents. All is closed forever. But a blessed rosette atmosphere fills the heavenly spaces from the death room onward to summer realms beyond the stars. But all this I will tell you what I have seen, who have stood by the side of many deathbeds. A description of manifestation in one case will, however, suffice for the whole. A human being lies on the bed of death and is indeed actually dying. It is to be a rapid death. The physical body grows negative and cold in proportion as the elements of the spiritual body become warm and positive. The feet become cold first. The clairvoyant sees right over the head what may be called a magnetic halo, an ethereal emanation, golden in appearance and throbbing as though conscious. Now the body is cold up to the knees and elbows. The legs are then cold to the hips and the arms to the shoulders. The emanation is more expanded, though it has not risen higher in the room. The death coldness steals over the breast and around on the other side. The emanation has attained a position nearer to the ceiling. The person has ceased to breathe. The pulse is still. The emanation is elongated and fashioned in the outline of the human form. It is connected beneath with the brain. The head of the person throbs internally, a slow, deep throb, not painful, but like the beat of the sea. The thinking faculties are rational, while nearly every part of the person is dead. The golden emanation is connected with the brain by a very fine life thread. On the body of the emanation, there appears something white and shining, like a human head. Next comes a faint outline of the face divine. The fair neck and beautiful shoulders manifest, and then in rapid succession, all parts of the new body down to the feet. A bright, shining image, somewhat smaller than the physical, but a perfect prototype in all except disfigurements. The fine life thread continues, attached to the old brain. The next thing is the withdrawal of the electrical principle. And when the thread snaps, the spiritual body is free and is prepared to accompany its guardians to the summerland. Yes, there is a spiritual body. It is sown in dishonor and raised in brightness. So, he's talking here about the actual transition from life to death and from the death of the person into the spirit realm, right? So this process, from what he describes here, is a slow process. So as the body is going into the slow rigor mortis, right, when we start to see the coldness move from the feet to the head, when there's still electrical outputs happening in the brain is still doing its thing, right? But everything else, the heart, everything else is stopping. Everything else is shutting down and getting cold, right? So as this is happening, he is describing sort of like this white sort of orb happening just from the back of the neck outward up here, right? And it stays pretty close to the body for the majority of the dying process, right? And once the electrical synapses of the brain finally stop, which usually takes anywhere from like, a few minutes to several, I mean 6 to 12 minutes depending on the situation, right? But those 6 to 12 minutes can be a very long time in the spirit world. For all you know, the 6 to 12 minutes of your dying synapse could already be the life lived and died in the next life, for all you know, right? Because that's how long and that's how distorted time is in these spirit places. But anyway, I digress. So when the last final synapses occur, what Davis is talking about here is now the cord that attaches the brain, the spinal cord and the brain to the actual spirit body itself is now officially broken. The spirit body has detached itself from the physical body. And now, what you will begin to see are the details of the spirit body to really start manifesting. So, you'll start to see facial features, you'll start to see the outline of the person, and they will be several feet above the body towards like the ceiling of the room where they died. Whereas in the beginning, when there were still some synapses and still some stuff, this glow that we're talking about is very close in proximity to the body, right? So interesting, very, very interesting. Now, I disagree that we are sown in dishonor. I disagree. but I get what he's trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, in comparison to the Summerland, in comparison to heaven, in comparison to the wonderful place that we supposedly come from, yeah, Earth is kind of ghetto. Earth is super ghetto. And yeah, I can totally see him being like, yeah, we're born in trash, but we come out. We rise above and we are bright. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I get it. I vibe. I don't like it, but I vibe. Anyway, let's keep it going. The newly arisen spiritual body moves off toward a thread of magnetic light which has penetrated the room. It touches the spiritual body near the head. It is a chain of love light sent from above as a guiding power. The spiritual being is asleep like a newborn happy babe. The eyes are closed and there seems to be no consciousness of existence. The sleep is long in many cases, but not in all. The love thread draws the body to the outside door or some other means of egress, which someone has been impressed to open. The spirit body is removed silently from the house. The thread of celestial attraction gathers about and draws it obliquely through 45 miles of air. Okay, that's really specific. It is surrounded by a beautiful ensemble of guardian friends. They throw their loving arms about the sleeping one and speed to the world of light. It is to be concluded, therefore, that we have every reason to rest and be happy with regard to life and death, for the laws of nature are unchangeable and complete in their operations. If we understand these laws and obey them here on earth, it is positively certain that our passage from this sphere and our entrance into the spirit country will be as a sleep and an awakening, an emergence into a more congenial and harmonious world. So is there nothing to fear, so is there much to love in a purely natural or non accidental death. Let us lament no longer because of the mere departure of an individual from our earth. And though cold and cheerless to the material senses, to the interior vision and the ascending spirit, the change is bathed in auroral splendor. Let tranquility reign in the chambers of the dying, for when a body dies on earth, a soul is born in heaven. There is nothing lost by putting off mortality and leaving things evanescent for immortal beauties in the spirit land. The voices from the land may seem like revelations of fancy, but the time is dawning when many shall hear and comprehend the mighty truths their tones impart. Therefore, at the hour of death and in the chamber of the departed, there will be sweet and solemn music in place of weeping, a quiet and a holy Passover. That's beautiful. That is beautiful, right? So I mean, we all want to believe that. We all want to believe that when our body leaves, when our spirit body leaves our physical body, we're going to be greeted by a white light that then pulls us to 45 miles fucking above the earth, I guess, so that we can meet our families and our friends who then get super excited to embrace us and then bring us up to the next level, which is wherever they're from, right? 45 miles and all that. I don't know about all that. So let's go back to the footnotes and find out what the fuck he's talking about here. What is he talking about? Let's go back. Let's go back. Okay. This was a short chapter, like a super short chapter. So let's figure it out, shall we? Okay. So the footnotes say here, so this particular chapter was taken from section 1 of his book entitled Death and the Afterlife, right? So it is to be observed that this is a popular use of the term substance at once loose and incorrect, as the terminology of the word shows. Philosophically, substance is that which stands behind or underlies the manifest appearance of things, and to say that it is ponderable is to confuse all the issues. Yeah. So again, this is the author's way of saying, when he was describing how the spirit is made of substance, this is the author's way of being like, this motherfucker has no idea what he's talking about. Blah 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 blah. I will say, the author who compiled all of these books, he is so mean. Like, his footnotes are so fucking mean. Like, he talks so much shit about Davis. Anyway, let's keep it moving. So the footnote here, let's see. So the human soul possesses varied passions, impulses, desires, attractions, intellectual endowments, all of which render it capable of harmonious and endless expansion. But these attributes lay it open also to inexpressible misery. If its chords are touched unkindly, the instrument cannot but respond to the same tones, and then the vibrations of the spirit bear fearfully on the body. So this is a really important thing to distinguish in this footnote here, because he didn't talk about this in the chapter. Okay. What he did say in the chapter was, as long as there wasn't like an accidental death or a traumatic death, everything should be fine. Right. But in the footnote here, he's making it very clear. The author is saying that all of these wonderful attributes that the spirit has, and all of the things that an old person starts to reflect upon when he's in that old age and he's going inward to really connect with his spirit, that is the moment in which many people fall into a space of misery, right? Because when you fall into this space of misery, either because you fear death, or because maybe you have guilt or shame about a life that you've lived or choices that you've made or whatever, then that misery will imprint itself on the spirit and change the vibration of the spirit. So when the spirit leaves the body, there's going to be a whole different situation happening for them. Okay? So it's important to be with the ones that you love around their time of death, to help them relieve themselves of any guilt, shame, or if they believe in sin, to relieve themselves of their sins, to do confessions, things like that. It's very good for the spirit to empty itself of things that may anchor it back down to the ground, right? Back down to earth, right? Okay. The next footnote says, it is expressed in an axiom as follows: the philosophy of death is the philosophy of change. It is not, however, change in the constitution or personality of the individual, but of situation only, meaning that whereas it abode formerly in an earthly body, it inhabits henceforward a spiritual organization, in virtue of which it becomes fitted for higher associations. Okay. Now, mind you, we're talking about spiritualism here. So, spiritualism believes in a heaven, they believe in an afterlife called the Summerland. Whereas spiritists and espiritistas more often adopt this idea of reincarnation. So, here, there is this sense of working out your spiritual organization and allow yourself to evolve in the spirit realm, but you're staying there. Whereas in the spiritist philosophies, you are working on your progression and your spiritual organization to fit for higher organizations through the process of reincarnation. You do that at the learning school, which is Earth. Okay? Just so that we don't get those two things confused. All right? The other footnote says here that the body should not be deposited in the earth until after decomposition has positively commenced. Sometimes the umbilical life cord is not severed, but is drawn out into the finest possible medium of sympathetic connection between the body and the spirit. This is not the first time that I've heard this. This is not the first time that I've heard this. This is actually a very common thought, that when somebody dies, or if somebody is in a coma, and this is why so many people have such a hard time pulling the plug on their loved ones and stuff like that, because there is essentially a current, a cord, that the spirit body and the physical body are still connected, right? And so in this mind frame, there is a certain sort of point in the death process where everyone kind of calls it and says, okay, the body is officially dead. The cord has been officially severed. We can bury the body or burn the body, whatever, whatever your thing is. Hey, Mimi. Um, but to not do that prematurely, because if the spirit cord is still connected to the physical body, upon burying, you can essentially ground a spirit. You can essentially create a haunting, if you will. Let's see what this footnote says. It says, it is laid down in another place as a law of nature that every true and spontaneous change is attended with improvement in the condition and constitution of the thing which is changed. So is man's death to the outer world a change of importance, both as to place and state. Death is a birth into a new and more perfect existence. It is a triumphant arc through which the spirit passes into a more magnificent country. There is nothing more painful or repulsive in the natural process of dying, being that which is not brought about by disease or accident, than there is in passing into pleasant and dreamless slumber. Okay, sure. Let's glorify death, shall we? Let's glorify death so people can be out here offing themselves, talking about, oh, it's better on the other side. The grass is greener on the other. I always get so nervous about shit like that. I really do. I get so nervous about when people glorify death or glorify because motherfuckers is crazy out here. People are stupid out here. People are looking for a reason to themselves, looking for it, okay? Life is hard. Stop giving people reasons, for real. For real. Anyway, footnote, let's see. So Davis, as we have seen, was the witness of more than one transition, and the following alternative case will serve to illustrate the fact that as no two deaths are exactly alike on the physical and visible side, so all exhibit characteristics, variations in the departure of the soul, as this is beheld in the psychic state. So soon as the spirit was disengaged altogether from the physical body, the spirit began to breathe the most interior or spiritual portions of the surrounding terrestrial atmosphere, and at first with difficulty, and then with ease and delight. I saw that she was in possession of exterior and physical proportions identical with those which characterized her earthly organization, but improved and beautified. She had her heart, stomach, liver, lungs, etc., as her natural body had previous to its death. The improvements in her spiritual organism were not so thorough as to destroy or transcend her personality, nor did they materially alter her earthly characteristics. I saw her conform and accustom herself to the new elevating sensations which belong to the inner life. I remarked her philosophic tranquility throughout the entire process and her non participation in the unrestrained lamentation for her departure by the different members of her family. The period required to accomplish the entire change was not far from 2 hours and a half. But there is no rule as to time in this respect. When accustomed to the new elements by which she was encompassed, she descended from an elevated position above the body, passed out of the bedroom door, all doors being open because it was a summer month, and then through an adjoining room and so into the open air. She walked in the atmosphere easily and in the same manner as we tread upon earth. On emerging from the house, she was joined by two friendly spirits, and after recognizing tenderly and communing with one another, the three began to ascend obliquely through the ethereal envelope of our globe. I continued to gaze until distance shut them from my view. There was a great contrast when, on returning to my normal condition, I beheld only the lifeless, deserted organism instead of that beautiful, unfolded spirit. It will be seen that this personally was possessed of those viscera which are denied elsewhere to the physical body. So this was his actual report. This is what Davis supposedly saw with his own two eyes upon the transition of this young woman. Now, mind you, Davis never admitted to being a medium, nor did he admit to ever being an intellectual. He was simply interested in these subjects. He went to different like open seminars and public lectures from scientists and spiritualists that he really admired. And he wrote his books from those inspirations, but he never claimed to be an intellectual or a medium. However, he did show here that this is what he saw. And that right there is a mediumistic ability to be able to see spirit transitioning out of a body, to watch it move through walls and walk through things, to watch it interact with other spirits and ascend out. That's all part of the mediumistic abilities. So just be mindful that although he claims to not be one, it is recorded throughout history and in his books from other people who wrote about him that he may have been an actual medium. Okay, so that's the end of that chapter. What time is it? 7:41. Good timing. Now we open the floor up for questions. Do we have any questions? Let's talk about it. Hello, Linda. So Linda says, "Oh my god, the series Evil had an episode on that, trying to find a weight for the soul." Absolutely. Yes. Hi Manvi, how's everyone doing tonight? We are opening up for questions. Thank you all for joining me. Hi, blessings and light, Mimi. The book that we are reading is called The Harmonial Philosophy by Andrew Jackson Davis. Let's see. Any other questions? How are we feeling? Oh, Manvi, I'm sorry, honey. I'm not doing any readings today, sweetie. I'm not doing any readings. This is our book club. But if you want to get a reading from me, head over to my website and I will be glad to give you one, okay? Absolutely, I will put it in the chat room. So, the Harmonial Philosophy. And if you go to the YouTube channel where all of these chapters are loaded, you will see the cover of the book as well. That I posted. Philosophy. Oh my god, I literally cannot spell. The Harmonial Philosophy. There we go. Oh, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry, Manvi. No. It's cool. You know what it is? You probably saw me playing with my cards. I do that because when I get nervous, I have to like fiddle. I'm a fidget person. Um, and so my fidget is my playing cards. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, head over to my YouTube. You'll love it. I have interviews there. I do book club there. I do educational videos there. It's a great channel. I'm slowly revamping it. So the new year, we're gonna have a lot of new material, and I'm really excited about that as well. So make sure you subscribe so you keep in touch and all that. And for those of you who are also brand new to just me in general, when you go to my website, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter because I give a lot of freebies on my newsletter. I give you guys free downloads. I give you guys videos. I write blogs for you guys. So, get onto that newsletter so that you could be, the first people to, get any discounts, any promotions that I'm giving out. I always give it out to my newsletter people first, right? So head on over there and subscribe, okay? Don't be shy, Mimi. I don't bite. I promise. I promise. I don't bite. Mm. The water today is so tasty. Mm. Any more questions? How are we feeling? Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. That's the goal. That's the goal. Okay, so then if we don't have any more questions on the book itself, do we have any questions on spiritism, spiritualism, and espiritismo in general? Because so now I'll open up the floor to that. Okay? Yeah. Oh, let me check Instagram. I always forget about Instagram. I always forget about Instagram already left. Instagram is like, fuck it, I'm done. Let me see. Hello, everybody there. Aw, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I always forget about y'all. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, excuse me. Hi, Amanda. All right, so no questions at all about anything. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for partying with me. For sure. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Right? Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be here. Oh, wait, we do have a question. We do. Let's see. Lavetta. Hey, Lavetta, what's up, my girl? Does your practice involve any type of spiritual possession? So, all right, that is a great question. So, spiritual possession. So, first and foremost, right? When we talk about spiritism, spiritualism, and espiritismo, there is no such thing as spiritual mounting in the way that we know them in the Caribbean. Okay. So when we move to espiritismo, when we get to the Caribbean and we move to espiritismo in those areas, we see spirit mounting as a whole different thing, and that was incorporated into espiritismo. But traditionally in spiritism, spiritualism, and in the scientific Kardec Puerto Rican Mesa Blanca type of espiritismos, there is no spirit possession. Now, here's where it gets a little complicated, okay? Because we also want to be very careful like what we say, right? So we want to make sure we make a distinction between the words mounting and possession, right? And I did a video on this. So mounting is this idea that you are consenting to being taken over by spirit in whatever capacity that might look like, right? So for some of us, it might be a trance meditation where we can use our clairs and our psychic abilities to tune into spirit, and we can feel them present, like real close. They're standing like right there, so much so that we can read them and interpret them very accurately. It's like boom, right there, right? Then you have the channeling, which is it's very similar to mounting. The spirit does kind of move in and use you as a mouthpiece, but you are in full control. You are able to remember, you are able to interpret what you are saying. And then you have the full mounting, which is when the spirit is fully taken over. And in those situations, you aren't always fully in control and you may not remember. Now, possession, on the other hand, is a non consensual activity that is usually the last end result of a causa, or what we call a spiritual attachment. Okay, so when someone has a spiritual attachment or a causa, if left untreated, right, eventually that spiritual attachment will then become obsessive, and then that obsessive attachment will then become like a poltergeist kind of energy. And then, so there's stages, right? And the very last stage of having an attachment that has been untreated for so long, and if anything, has probably been fed into, the last stage is spirit possession. And that is a non consensual possession of a lower vibrational entity that had originally started off as a causa and something as, a nuisance, a parasite that has now progressed and manifested into a bigger problem, and in some cases has drawn in other spirit entities, possibly even demonic entities, to then take over the body. So these are two very different things. So possession, you're dealing with lower vibrational energies that are non-consensually possessing a body that is open to that. And then you have spirit mounting, which is when the espiritistas are calling on spirit through singing, chanting, drumming, dancing, trance. They're calling their spirits in to mount them. Now, in traditional spiritism and spiritualism, when we deal with high vibrational spirits, elevated spirits, really, really high elevated spirits, they normally do not mount people. That's not something that they're interested in doing. They have no interest in materializing themselves. They have no interest in having to weigh down their very, very light essence in order to come into the physical 3D. So you rarely see elevated spirits coming down in a mount like that. They will talk through the faculties and all that, but they don't need to mount. If they do mount in those situations, it is usually because they are coming down to do some type of a healing, some type of a blessing, or some type of miraculous intercession. Okay? Otherwise, they don't really fuck with that. It's not really a thing that they do. They're not interested in that. And it's mainly because of their material composition. Their material composition is very, very light and ethereal, and it takes a lot of effort for them to materialize, which is why in a lot of cultures there will be things that we do to help them materialize. And this is where you might see things like animal sacrifice, or doing certain kinds of offerings, or doing certain things to help anchor those spirits to us and bring them down, because they're too ethereal. So hopefully that makes sense. That was a lot. I said a lot of stuff. Hopefully that made sense. Um, Amanda, what's the topics for discussion? Spiritual stuff, girl. All things spiritual. Spiritism, spiritualism, espiritismo. Mimi says, do you know if nuns, which are high elevated, mount? Ooh, that weird thing came up. Hold on. Okay. Do I know if nuns mount? Um, so again, the words are tough to I don't want to say just yes and no, because the language is important. We need to make sure that we're saying the right words, right? And again, the word mounting, we don't, nuns and Catholicism don't use those words. But we have seen nuns go through very ecstatic states. We've seen nuns. No, 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 don't be sorry at all, babes. Don't be sorry at all. If anything, this is really good because you're not the only person who thinks this way too. And like, it's important to make sure we get clarity for everyone. So you're doing God's work. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so like they do go through these like ecstatic stages, and they do go through these like trance stages. We have seen nuns go through that. Unfortunately, though, we've seen in their biographies and in the past that these nuns don't always have the best life once these things start happening, because they are looked at as, being possessed by demons or this or that. They go, they get charged with witchcraft. They're like, so many sad things end up happening to them because of the misunderstanding around what they're experiencing. But there are a few. So we have people like the Joan of Arcs out there. We have many saints and nuns and priests and popes who have been sort of taken over, if you will, by Christ consciousness, the Mother Mary, certain angels, or they've had visions of other saints coming to them who have passed. We also know of saints being able to biolocate, meaning in their lifetime, while they are alive, they have been known to be in other parts of the world and be witnessed and be interacting with people in other parts of the world, even though they exist in this particular place. So their biolocation, all of that has been documented a lot. So yeah, it's pretty dope. Linda, is the mesa on Sundays always virtual? I joined for Sunday, but this is a new way for me. I hope I can contribute since I've only done this in person. Absolutely, Linda. Yes. So my misas right now, yes, the Sunday ones are only virtual. And that is because I have not raised enough money yet for a center to have where I can then open it up to in-person misas, which I'm praying and hoping and praying and hoping and praying that I will eventually get someday. So in the meantime, yes, it is just virtual, and you will definitely have plenty to contribute. You'll see. You'll see. Hi, Dulce. What's up? It's okay. It's okay. Lavetta, thank you for the clarification and the differences between mounting and possession. Much appreciated. Of course, you are my chick. Biolocate. Yes, baby girl. Yes, biolocate. It can be done. There are, many mystics, many spiritual um ascended masters, many monks, priests who are known to biolocate, to be in more than one location at the same time. There's actually a Hindu there's a Hindu woman who I met in person back in 20 when did I meet her? I met her in 2006. Her name is Alma, and her nickname is the Hugging Saint. And she's a woman from India who travels all over the world, and her only thing is she hugs people. And I mean, people wait in line for days, lines just going up and down city blocks, up and down. And I remember when she came to visit New York City in 2006, me and my best friend Carrie, he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, the Hugging Saint is here. You want to go see her?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's go." And we get online, and we stood online for like 7 hours, and we took turns. Like, I would stay online, he would go get us something to eat, then he would stay online, I would go to the bathroom or whatever, like for hours. We get to her. We finally get to hug her. The hug is amazing. Absolutely amazing, you guys. She whispers something in Hindi in your ear, and then the translator translates it for you, and then you get like some mala beads and a few other things, and she prays over the mala beads for you. She kisses them and she gives them to you, and it's like a whole little thing. And I remember that year, after we were all done, right? We're sitting at the cafe, we're talking, me and my best friend Carrie, we're talking about, we're like, "Oh my God, how was your experience?" It's like, "Oh my God, this is what I felt, and what did you feel?" And blah, blah, blah. And we're talking, and then we get a call from one of our other friends, or one of our mutual friends, and she's like, "Hey, are you guys, did you guys go and see Alma today at all? Like, cause she was in New York City. Like, I saw it on the news. She was in New York City, and the line was really long. Were you guys there?" And we're like, "Yeah, we actually finished like an hour ago. We're having coffee. We're talking about it." And she's like, "Yeah, so about that, she's also in India right now." And we're like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, she's in India right now." Like, and we're like, "No, she's not. She's up the road. There's a line still out there right now for her. Like, right now. Like, still out there for her. She's here." And they're like, "No, bitch, she's in India." And so, it just kind of goes to prove that, like, these are things that happen quite regularly to very, very in-tuned people. And these are people who have elevated their spirit to a point where they can take their consciousness and place it in multiple places. They can do it so much so that their consciousnesses can materialize into a physical form that people can touch and communicate with. So while she's in New York over here hugging on all of us, she's in India hugging on a whole bunch of other people, and she's over here hugging on a whole bunch of other people, and she's healing people worldwide at the same fucking time. I know. I know. You were just watching the on Spirit Animals. Oh, good. Thank you. Good, good, good. Oh wow. I got 3,000 likes, you guys. Oh wow, thank you so much. There was only like three of you here this whole time. So thank you for just keeping your thumb on that heart button. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. That's awesome. Any other questions? How are we feeling? How are we feeling? Mm, that water was so good. I need more. I need more. We're good? All right. Fabia, that's a great question. Yes. So my interview series, This Is How We Grow. That's the title of my series. I'm gonna be starting a whole new season in the new year. And I have a nice lineup for the new year. I'm really excited. So yeah, stay tuned for that. In the meantime, catch up on all the old interviews and be gentle with me because I was very new and I had very shitty equipment and I did the best that I could, okay? But now your girl got all the right equipment. I learned how to use things on the internet like Canva and other things, and I'm really excited because anyone who knows me knows that I am not tech savvy like at all. But I've been learning, and so I'm really excited for the new season to come out. I am glad you did. That is the point. That is the whole goal. All right, you guys. Listen, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Send your love however you can. Write me a review on Google if you feel so inclined. Go to my website and sign up for my newsletter so that you can stay up to date on all the goodies and get discounts and read blogs and do all that fun stuff. Right? And that's really it. Steven, you did come too late. I'm just wrapping up now, my honey bun. But it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube, man. You know what to do. All right, guys, you have a beautiful, beautiful lunar eclipse tonight. Take advantage of these wonderful energies. Eat lots of fruit. Drink lots of water. Maybe do some detoxing teas. Detoxing teas are a great thing to ingest around this time. And be good to your tummy. Okay, this is the day for that. All right. Mwah. Much love. Take it easy. This is how we grow.